Friends, for months and years, we will be living with and surviving the consequences of COVID-19. I'm talking specifically about the spike in anxiety and depression, the mental health issues, the PTSD among those who live this on the front lines at the risk of their own life and the health of their families. These anxious days have multiplied the symptoms of my own anxieties that were quietly buried in the past, yet still driving my life unbeknownst to me. Those who never felt they were anxious or had never suffered with an anxiety disorder may discover themselves suddenly afraid to leave their house, depressed, having suicidal thoughts, anxious about the future, unable to handle the uncertainty or financial fallout or complexities of navigating the new directives for financial assistance or medical care. Others might say to you, "You're not suffering with anxiety. You look calm. You're getting along well enough." But you know deep inside what is tearing you apart. I turn to Scripture where I usually turn when I need guidance from above. And I discover that there are anxiety-provoking situations in every book of the Bible, without exception. The drama of salvation folds not in peace and comfort and consolation, but through earnest, honest people stepping up to face the unknown, to risk the divine adventure, to be stopped before seemingly immovable roadblocks and incomprehensible tragedy through which God safely led them home. I think of Abraham. God appears to him and tells him to get up, to leave his country and kindred for a land which God will show him. There's no map, no name of where they're going, but the promise that God would make of him a great nation. From that tiny step of faith on the part of Abraham, all of salvation history, including our own response to the Lord as Christians, unfolds. I think of the story of Moses. The children of Israel cried out to God from the midst of slavery in Egypt. God called Moses to step out in faith, to lead them out of Egypt to the promised land. The whole story from beginning to end is shot through with anxiety. Think of the life of a slave and the role of the savior of the people. Think of standing before the Red Sea with the Egyptian troops closing in and seemingly no escape. And then the 40 years of endless wandering in the desert. The words of God in front of the Red Sea, "Be still, stand firm, and see what I will do for you. I shall fight for you." Before his death, Moses reflected on their journey through the wilderness with the tender acknowledgement, "The Lord has led you for 40 years in the wilderness. The clothes on your back have not worn out, and the sandals on your feet have not worn thin." I think of the woman caught in adultery standing amongst her accusers before the Lord, who bent down and drew on the ground. What anxiety! This was a life or death moment. For if Jesus said the law should be carried out, she would have been stoned. Instead, he said to her when her accusers had left, "Go and do not sin again." On the father of the child who had died, the woman who had run out of money after years of searching for a cure for her hemorrhaging. I think of Mary, who was startled when the angel appeared to announce to her that she was to be the mother of the Son of God. Or Saint Joseph, who was distressed when he discovered that his betrothed was with child. I think of the apostles and disciples who hid in a room when their master was on Calvary, alone, knowing full well that they had lacked in courage, that they had let him down at the moment when he was most in need of their presence, of their love, when they could see only darkness and no possibility of anything ever being good again. I think of Mary standing beneath the cross, receiving into her arms the body of her dead son. And in each case, God was with them, carrying them through, assuring them that he was with them, that they were not alone, that they were bearers of the torch of God's all-powerful love in the midst of tragedy, uncertainty, and sorrow. Friends, this has been my experience also, and it will be yours. It's really all about what God is doing in and through us as servants of salvation in today's world. And that is truly what we are. God led each person to face the place of anxiety and pronounce the words, "Do not fear, do not be afraid." These words appear 365 times in the scriptures. And then he took care of them. He was with them in the place of impossibility. In the COVID-19 pandemic and its aftermath, we are facing what is for many of us the greatest experience of collective loss and uncertainty and powerlessness in our generation. This program will help you hold rather than run from any anxiety you may be experiencing, so that you can take your own trembling and courageous place among the saints and holy ones of salvation history that God is loving and saving and carrying in the dark. So let us begin with just a few specific things you can do right now to feel less out of control, less fearful of your own upset emotions, clearing away some of the static in your hearts and bodies and minds so that you can hear God's assurance to you. Do not be afraid. So, what triggers our worry and anxiety? Anything can be a trigger for worry. Even when things go right, we might begin to worry, what if things fall apart? But the things that really trigger our worry are when things are ambiguous. They're open to different interpretations. They're new, so we don't have any experience to fall back on. Or things that are unpredictable. It's unclear how things will turn out. Does any of this sound familiar at this moment? The current worldwide pandemic and health situation ticks off all of these boxes. And so it only makes sense that we're feeling worry and anxiety. So take a deep breath, be easy on yourself, consider yourself with understanding and with sympathy. It's okay. It's going to be okay. It's understandable that you're experiencing worry and anxiety. So don't think of this as doomsday. Look at it rather as a chance to find a new normal, to discover somehow, some way in which God is bringing something new about in the midst of great sorrow through this virus. Ask yourself, how do I want to live my life right now within the constraints that we are all living? So don't underestimate the cognitive and emotional load that this pandemic brings, or the impact that it's going to have on your family, on relationships, on your mood, on productivity, at least in the short term. You might find difficulty concentrating. You might discover that your motivation for doing anything is low. Maybe your temper is short. Maybe your state of distraction is larger than normal. Adaptation is going to take time, but it will happen. It will happen. So go easy on yourself as we settle into this new rhythm of remote work, of being home a lot more than we usually are, being with our families a lot more than we usually are. We need to be realistic in the goals we set, both for ourselves and for others with whom we're living this period. Stress during an infectious disease outbreak can include fear and unexpected worry about your own health that you're not used to having, or about the health of your loved ones. You might notice changes in your sleeping or eating patterns. You might have difficulty concentrating. There may be a worsening of health problems that are chronic, and you might discover an increased desire to use alcohol, tobacco, or other drugs. So take care of yourself. Choose wisely. Take care of your friends. Reach out to your family near and far, because as you're experiencing these things, so is the rest of the world. So are your friends, and so are the members of your family. And by reaching out to help them cope with stress, you actually help yourself cope with stress, and you help make the community stronger. So try to lay a solid foundation for your mental health and well-being by prioritizing sleep, by practicing good sleep hygiene, for example, avoiding blue lights before bed and maintaining a routine around your sleeping time and your waking time. Eat as well as you can. Be conscious that you might be inclined to drink more, to indulge in other things that may not be really helpful at this time, but seem to help manage stress. And this is understandable, but they can be profoundly damaging to your life, and in the long run, more difficult for you to live through this time of anxiety. So what are some things you can do to support yourself right now? First, take breaks from watching, reading, and listening to news stories. If you can, get out and take a walk. If you can't, go out on a porch, look out a window, open the window if you can. Stay away from screens, social media, Facebook for certain periods of the day. Give yourself a break. Make a prayer corner in your room, and during those break times, go there and just be quiet, or find a book you haven't read that you've bought that might give you inspiration and hope, a story of someone else who has lived through difficult times and survived. Take care of your body. Take deep breaths, stretch, exercise if you can. Try to eat healthy, well-balanced meals. Make time to unwind. Do some activities that you enjoy. And as we said before, connect with others. And also talk with people you trust about your concerns, what you're feeling, your fears. Don't be alone in this with your struggle, because really, we're all in this together. And for the first time, everybody will understand what you are experiencing when you try to explain what's happening inside of you. So choose activities that soothe you, give you a sense of purpose, maybe playing a board game, reading, putting together puzzles, maybe studying some of the courses that are made free online right now, attending the Eucharist as it's being celebrated online and on television. Call, text, FaceTime, Skype daily with others. During traumatic times, we need connection. Being alone makes it even harder, so make sure to connect. I think we all know that feeling of being paralyzed by worry, sitting around, twiddling our thumbs, spinning our wheels, only to feel worse and worse. Worry is that mental act of trying to problem solve something that either isn't a problem or something that we can't really solve at this time. There are many things about this pandemic that we can't solve. There are things we can do. We can wash our hands. We all know that. There are things we can do to research, to prepare, to study, to deepen. to be with our families and with those we love. But we really can't personally solve the problem of decisions that are going to be made by the government. We can't solve the problem of how the country is going to come out of isolation. And so worrying about it is not going to help. So take a deep breath and realize the things that are out of your control. And take 5 or 10 minutes a day to really list those on a paper. Write down the things that you're worrying about that you can't control, that really worrying about is not going to change. You cannot problem solve them. Maybe you take a piece of scrap paper and just for 10 minutes mentally write out every thought in your head from beginning to end. Don't stop for that 10-minute period. And then when you're done, put it aside. Don't worry about grammar. Don't worry about spelling. Just spill out everything that's inside and then set it aside. You never need to look at it again. But if you do this day after day, you're going to discover that your mind becomes more calm and more at peace. It's also important to know your red flags. The red flags when your distress is getting out of control. They might be thoughts, they might be feelings, they might be worries, they may be behaviors. And when you see those red flags, stop, just take a deep breath, breathe in, count to 4, breathe out very slowly, count to 4, breathe in. Do this for 5 or 6 minutes. You might even combine it with a prayer that you know and love. A prayer maybe that you said often in your life, or simply, I often say, I am here now with you, Jesus, with you, my God. I am here now with you, my God. Or you are here now with me. You are here now with me. And you combine that with your breath, it's a very calming exercise and a very calming meditation. And be compassionate with yourself and with others. There is so much that we're powerless over right now. And being powerless can make us feel irritated, angry, anxious, out of control. So when we talk to ourselves during these times that are so challenging, we need to talk to ourselves with sympathy, with a quiet, gentle affection, with understanding, like a parent to a child who's scared of the dark or scared of the storm, because we're all scared. We're all scared. We're all anxious. And we all have realities that this pandemic is going to touch that are different than everybody else's realities. So be compassionate with yourself and remember that we're all in this together. No one is living through this alone. And the amazing thing is that it has leveled us. And instead of us just taking care of ourselves, whether that's a certain socioeconomic bracket, a certain country, a certain government, we're all in this together and we're all working together to get out of it. So be compassionate with yourself, be compassionate with others. On your breath, send a prayer of compassion to people all over the world. Ask the Lord of peace, the Lord of mercy, to really be there. Send your guardian angel to be next to someone who's really afraid right now and to bring them comfort. Maintain connections, as we were talking before, and that includes even connections with where you're working, with the teams that you're working with. And maybe you want to join a book club online, a book club on Facebook, or just create a group of friends that are reading something together online and talking about it. Allow this time that we're forced into isolation, forced into stillness, forced into silence, to really deepen and discover something really impressive within ourselves. We do have the capacity for beauty, for goodness, and for truth. We're so harried and so hurried, even in the convent. And God is just saying, I think, be still, be still. And as we're still and safe, relatively safe in our houses, we might discover that we have this beautiful place within us that's strong and that's able to live through this time together. And my last suggestion is go back to a short prayer that you've loved ever since you were a child. For me, it's the Memorare, the little prayer to the Blessed Mother that's this ancient in history. It's been said by so many Christians throughout the centuries. Maybe a prayer to the Divine Mercy, the Our Father, the Hail Mary, a prayer that you were taught by your mother, or a prayer that you've come to love as a novena. Look online for a prayer. Just have a short prayer, and in that prayer, repeat it often during the day. It could even be the Rosary. It could be going to Mass every day online. But that simple prayer that we recite often during the day will be actually a calming presence. It will calm our heart. And as we say that prayer, to picture Jesus, or picture Mary, or at least picture something beautiful, a place or a time when you were at peace, calm, and just calmly make connection with God and with Mary. And you will discover that during this time, you will grow deeper and deeper and deeper. And when we all come out of this time, I think we all will be different people. So as catastrophic as this has been for the world and for us individually and personally, we can begin to reframe this as a new normal, maybe, but also as the beginning of something beautiful that God is doing in the midst of this sorrow and tragedy to bring new life, new hope, new grace, and new peace in the world.